Okay, so here we're going to take a look at the graphs of a hyperbola that are not centered at the origin. Right now, again, similar to our ellipse, right, we're shifting the whole curve here, so the shape of the curve is not affected here, nor are the lengths of the transverse or the conjugate axis. Right, the only thing that is moving really that we have to adjust are the coordinates of the vertices, the foci, right, and the equations of our asymptotes. Right, but same as before, the length of the transverse is still 2a. The length of conjugate axis is 2b. Right, and the way we relate c, a, and b is by this equation, right? C squared equals to a squared plus b squared. Okay, so now let's say that we have this equation here, x minus h over a squared, y minus k squared over b squared, right? So it's telling me the transverse is a horizontal, right? So given this center, hk, and again, I just chose it to be in quadrant 1, and it's not required that it's there. It may be anywhere on our coordinate system, but just we'll keep it there. Our transverse axis is on the horizontal, right? So if, let's say, whatever the value for a is, right, since it's 2a, half of that distance is a, so one of the coordinates for our vertex would be h plus a. K remains the same since we only move in the horizontal direction. And over here, we'd have h minus a comma k. Right, and whatever the value of c is, that would help us get to the focus on this side. Right, if I call that our first focus, right? So distance from the center, so h plus c, k remains the same. And then somewhere out here, h minus c. K remains the same. Okay, so that would be for our transverse axes. Now for our conjugate axis, all right, that would be somewhere along the vertical here. Let's say that. Let's call this somewhere here. Okay, and that would have the value of b, right? So in this case, our h remains the same, and this co-vertex up here are h plus b, excuse me, h comma k plus b, and this other co-vertex, h remains the same, k minus b. Okay, and we can draw that little rectangle from here. Okay, and the asymptotes would be the diagonals. All right, and it opens horizontally, so the curve would actually be this right here. Okay. Now, as far as the equation of our asymptotes, right now the slope is going to be the same as if it was centered at the origin, right? Change in x over change in y, right? So this one over here, right, that is y equals b over a. But the only difference here is using the point slope form, or even like graph transformations, right? So it moves h in the horizontal direction and then k in the vertical direction, right? But again, this formula is from our point slope form, and the other asymptote has the negative b over a, x minus h plus k. Okay. All right, and that is how we would find the one where it opens horizontally. Now, for the vertical, open again, same as the previous example, right? Everything here in terms of the lengths of these values, they remain the same. The only difference here, right, is where we are, how we find the coordinates of the vertices and the co-vertices and the equations of the asymptotes, right? But the lengths are still 2a, still 2b for the transverse and the conjugate axis respectively, and then a, b, and c are still related through this equation here. Okay, so now in this case, our transverse axis is now vertical. So let's say this was our transverse axis, right? To get to here, this vertex, right? H remains the same, and here we'll have k minus a, so it's below, and the one above is h comma k plus a. So those will be the coordinates for the vertex. The focus, one of the focus would be up here, and again the other one here, and similar as before. Here we'll have h remains the same, here k minus a for the one above, h k minus c. Excuse me, k plus c. My apologies here, that's the one below is k minus c, and the one above is k plus c. All right, and then our conjugate axis. Let's say it was here. Right, so now we're moving we're moving along the horizontal, right? So the value of k remains the same. To get here, it'd be h plus b. And then to get to this one, h minus b, k remains the same. Okay, we can create our little rectangle here. All right, and we can draw in our asymptotes. All right, and then our graph would be here, guided by our asymptotes. All right, now the equation of the asymptotes. All right, so now our slope is the reciprocal a over b instead of b, right, for the previous one, right? Same slope, right? Same rate of change. The only thing that changes is the horizontal and vertical shifts, and the way we achieve those shifts are by x minus h plus k. All right, and then for this asymptote, be the opposite slope, x minus h plus k. Okay, so the actual shape of the graph remains unchanged. This is just a shift along the horizontal and vertical by h and k. All right, thank you.